Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Weekly Strongly on the Jeep Journals, where basically we're taking a journey together. And I know this is virtual, but many of us who have traveled together in reality. And so that's why you're watching this video. You're watching this video because you're my friends and my family. And because you're my friends and my family, it's important for us to learn to communicate effectively. And what I'm trying to do is to protect my health. Because as we have discussed quite a few times, health is wealth. And in order for us to survive in this type of an era where, let's say for an example, the energy bills are continuing to go up because our constant temperatures are in the hundreds at or around the 100-degree mark for months on end now, where our air conditioners are running non-stop, which means that the energy bills are going up, and that's taking from our what? From our wealth. And when we're in an era like this, we need to figure out how together do we collectively address these situations. So today I want to talk about 5 components of wealth building, which may seem like common sense, but they're practically uncommon in today's situation where we don't tend to communicate as effectively as we can. So for the number one tip about wealth building today, I want to talk about where 2 or more are gathered in favor of an outcome. Well, that's basically where we're going to be able to succeed. And what does that mean? Let's just say, for an example, you were to go on a spiritual retreat or to be in a church where collectively everyone is praying for something good to happen, not just for themselves, but for their neighbors. Do you guys remember pre-corona where when you were in church, you would reach out and greet one another and say, peace be with you, peace be with you, peace be with you. Those are the intents, those are the feelings that we would convey to one another. Because in general, in that type of situation, you weren't angrily masking something opposite of that feeling. Unless you were just really a bitter person to begin with. And there are a lot of bitter people out there. I don't want to offend anyone by saying that you're not bitter if you are. If you're bitter and you know it, click the thumbs up. If you're bitter and you want to do the opposite of what someone tells you, click the thumbs down. That's fine. It's all up to you. Whatever you do, you're communicating, and that's the first step of resolving any type of potential obstacle and challenge that you're being faced with. So if you were to go to a place like, let's say for an example, YouTube, and share a video about a fig tree that was dug down into the ground, and someone immediately hated on that video and said that, you're trying to dig to find the devil. And really all that person was trying to do was to nourish that plant. Well, it's possible that collectively, a lot of the people who are watching these videos and who want to lash out will be able to lash out at something like that innocent fig tree. And that innocent fig tree might be met with unusual challenges in terms of making it through life, and that is happening right now. So for all of you who hated on me and hated on that fig tree and who didn't want to see success, well, it's possible that you're just strengthening the root system for the next season. It's possible you might kill the tree, and by you I mean the neglect of carelessly wanting to wish ill upon others. This house is protected, this yard is protected by positive energy. However, that doesn't mean that I'm Superman. I'm not superhuman, and I do have a higher power that is working with me against these adversities. But let me tell you, it's been very difficult to communicate with even close loved ones about situations that are ongoing right now. So for months, we have experienced 100-degree temperatures here. Let me give you an example. This Wednesday itself, we went to lunch with some really close loved ones and discussed these situations. Just by coincidence, these situations led to another situation where I got to meet with even more loved ones on site at the home of our loved ones. And in every case, we were able to talk about the weather and talk about situations like the Big Bend's Rio Grande going dry right now, which is, if you didn't understand it, definitely a problematic situation, at least for the animals and plant life that lives there. So we were talking about these things, and it was as if some of the individuals were hearing it from me for the first time, because we really don't get together on a regular basis to communicate. And since they heard it for the first time, and since they heard that I was hearing their challenges as well, and that I was able to discuss these situations with them and be in favor of their success, I believe what happened was these individuals started to hope for the best as well. Not just for me, but because of the circumstances they were experiencing as well that are related to these constant high temperature days that we're experiencing together. And so immediately what happened was the next 2 days in a row, we got rain, which was unheard of, especially considering we had very slim to no chances of precipitation at that time. This yard has been hand tended to, but with the watering restrictions we have and with the extreme heat and lack of cloud cover on many days, we haven't been as effective as Mother Nature or God, if you want to call it whatever you want to call it. So that brings me to another circumstance. Whether you talk Mother Nature, whether you talk God, whether you talk faith, whether you talk prayer, whether you talk meditation, the fact is that you have a belief system. And when somebody presents opportunities to broaden those belief systems, sometimes that can cause anxiety. And in many cases, especially the people who are in the wiser generation, I say it this way not because they're not wiser, what I meant is older. In the older generation, we have a lack of communication that is effective because the older generation tends to think that the younger generation has nothing to contribute. Well, let me tell you, I'm 45, so I'm right in the middle of being old and being young. I can do things that many of my wiser counterparts can't do. For an example, many of my wiser counterparts have trouble traveling short distances. They can't travel a short distance without having a bathroom in sight, without having a CPAP, without having oxygen on tap, without having some kind of a way to figure out how to get to the next place with all of the conveniences that we have tied ourselves to out of habit, out of addiction, out of poor health decision-making processes. I say that because when we look comparatively at our wiser generations, many are hooked on addictions, hooked on medications, I should say. And some of them are even going so far as to experiment with new drugs like methamphetamines, in the case of one of my direct loved ones. And these type of circumstances are causing poor health. So again, we're talking health building, wealth building right now on this channel. So if you've tuned out, tune back in, start trying to get your thoughts together. Understand we're focused on one thing right now, and that's succeeding. And when we need to succeed in a situation that's extremely challenging, it helps to have our friends and family on our side. Whether they are on our side just in thought, like let's say for an example, we have people saying that they're going to pray for us. Well, we need that to actually happen. We need the follow through to happen. In some cases, I've had people reach out, direct loved ones, who say they're going to contribute by sending daily spiritual scriptures that they've handpicked to share with family. And they haven't done that. And that's because that's bringing us to step 2. There is a spirit of truth and a spirit of error. The spirit of truth is such that if it's brought to attention, the ego isn't going to go, oh, well, that didn't happen because of, or I'm sorry, but it doesn't come up with an excuse. What it does is it accepts responsibility. And that's the kind of thing that a leader of peace would have taught. Like, let's say, for an example, Jesus Christ. He probably walked around talking peace by helping people to accept responsibility for self. And as I say this, I'm addressing myself. I know that when I gain weight, it's because of the things that I myself am doing. I know that when I slow down in terms of health, it is because of the choices, the poor choices that I myself have made. Some people make poor choices that also impact other people. Like, let's say for an example, you have someone who has a strong addiction to something like a substance abuse. Maybe even they just smoke. Whatever it is, it's an abusive behavior that they expose other people to, and those other people become wrapped up in these same addictions. And for some people, it's not just an addiction, it's a passive way to get out of thinking about the truth. And when we distract ourselves from the truth for so long, well, sometimes the lie becomes a truth in our own mind. And we don't want to answer honestly, because that would lend to having to confront the truth in ourselves. Truth or error. A lot of times when you talk with someone and you notice that they're making a lot of errors in what they're saying or typing, or how they're answering indirectly, or trying to discreetly avoid answering the questions, these are errors that are being made, and they know that they're errors and they don't want to admit to them. For an example, just yesterday itself on an inspiring channel that I was on, somebody typed something about how they pray for their loved ones, and it was spelled P-R-E-Y, which means to hunt and predate on something that's basically prey, like like predator-prey relationship, versus pray, P-R-A-Y. Even these innocent seeming typos are called spelling. And the way that we address things, like like on the last topic when I talked about if we say good morning and we don't say what a great day, how beautiful of a day it is, if we don't really use anything other than the pre-programmed rhetoric that we continue to talk with, sometimes we're helping to keep each other in the rituals of life. And I say rituals in a loose way, but you guys know what I'm talking about. At Christmas time, which is based on, what is it based on? We pretty much only celebrate trees and the things that we put under the trees, which has nothing to do with what this celebration is about. So it's kind of a ritual at that point. It's a ritual that's being orchestrated in a way where even the masses who tend to these thoughts don't necessarily rein it all in as a singular subject. It's basically, we're trying to talk about where two or more are gathered in the communion of wishing great health to each other. We're talking about the spirit of truth or error. If we say we're going to pray for one another or send some kind of spiritual inspiration to make it rain for one another, we need to actually follow through. The error is many of us aren't following through. And the time that you're hearing this is basically in a circumstance like this, because you've hit a certain level where you're listening to me. And who am I among anyone to be a teacher of these subjects of wealth building? The only thing I know how to do is how to acquire all sorts of things and to tend to them in ways that produce beauty, in ways that produce joy for one another. That's really about it. And so in other words, if I'm entrusted to a network system or to a guitar or to any type of situation, a cutting instrument, what I'm going to do is try to bring it back to whole. If it's all scratched up, I'm going to try to polish it up and make it beautiful. These are the things that I do with material aspects. What do I do with personal relationships? Generally, I try to do the same thing. If there are relationships that are all banged up and scratched up, I try to polish them up and help for the beauty to shine through. In certain circumstances, though, especially when it comes to step number 3, we can test the spirit of truth and the spirit of error by seeing whether or not that relationship that we have, that other person will answer questions. If you yourself have run into a situation where you've asked someone a question and they dance around the answer, they'll never answer the question. They'll never accept responsibility for communicating fully. They only want to talk about what matters to them, to their own selves. If they will not answer a question, like let's say you've had a challenging discussion where someone gets angry and upset at you. Look, if you're going to be this way every time we talk, and if they can't have a discussion where you ask them, what do you mean by every time we talk, if I'm going to be this way? What do you mean that I'm the only one doing these things? And also, for an example, can we even talk about that so that both perspectives can be shared so that we can try to figure out where this pain point is occurring? If they can't answer questions, many of the times the easiest and simplest solution is to paint someone into a question answering corner. Someone needs to go into timeout for a while. And that timeout is going to be pretty much delegated as far as the length of time by a higher power. Because when you put someone in timeout who really is a friend with you or a family member who they want to communicate with you, they're going to go out of their way to find a way to communicate with you. But if you've asked them a question and said, I will not talk with you about anything until you answer this question, you kind of paint them into a corner, which is almost why some people will tell me, have you ever read that book, Power versus Force? Or have you ever tried to not pressure someone into making a decision? It's like, I'm not pressuring anyone to do anything. I want to have fun. I want to build my guitars. I want to play my music. I want to get myself in shape. I want to tend to this yard. I want everyone who I meet with to be able to experience the best version of myself. In order to do that, I need to stop wasting time on frivolous activities. Frivolous being wealth wasting, wealth eroding situations. If you want to erode someone's health, because basically misery loves company, you're going to find a way to do it. I'm not your person. I'm not your person. That fig tree in my yard is not your target of intent. If you're really angry, you need to really redirect that energy to the mirror. Look at the mirror. Find out. Ask yourself why you're angry and why you won't answer questions. That brings us to number 4, which is time is energy. If I have all the time in the world, which I do when it comes to eternity, then what I'm going to do is try to invest my time wisely. Someone once told me that if you're trying to talk with someone and they can't hear what you're saying, well, dust off your sandals and move on to the next area. Well, in a way, that's pretty much what I've done. The energy that I've invested doesn't include the time that it used to take to go out of my way to continue to water the plants that would not bear fruit. And time is energy basically equates to time is money, money is wealth, wealth is health, health is wealth. It's really all the same thing. So what we invest our time into is basically what we invest our energy into. If I'm going to invest my energy only into losing situations, losing circumstances, then I myself am going to continue to lose. That's just the law of simple attraction. That's just the law of the universe. That's just the way that God said it. You know, you're either lukewarm or you're committed to a circumstance. And if you're committed to a circumstance and you believe in peace, you're going to do your best to bring things to order. When you bring things to order, naturally the wealth springs up all around you. Springs. It'll just literally come to you. You don't have to worry about buying new clothes. You don't have to worry about where the food's coming from. You don't have to worry about the water. You're going to have everything you need. The only thing you're not going to ever have right off the bat is the responsibility, the ability to make the choice to choose peace, to choose love. Until you help someone else, no one's really going to go out of their way to help you. And the beauty of it is, even as this world kind of grows exponentially in terms of the knowledge that we have, you'll learn that no matter how knowledgeable we are, the true help that we need with one another, that we need to flourish together, is not going to come. Because this is the temporal world. This is the world where basically, physically, well, we're all pretty much going to decline in terms of health at some point in time. And that basically is just a saying as well. Maybe we won't. Maybe some of us will become superhumanly strong. Maybe some of us will be reborn physically. And maybe those will be the ones left to pick up the pieces in the world. I'm not too worried about it. I'm just saying, when I look around outside as I drive these neighborhoods and see all the trash and rubbish everywhere, as I walk the trails that you guys love just as much as I do, as I see all the trash and rubbish everywhere, as I put water out in the yard for the birds to drink, and I see only hawks and falcons in this yard and all the variety of birds in this yard, but not in the local wilderness areas. As I see all of these things of concern and talk with them about our wiser generations, and as some of them begin to pray for one another and help to make it rain on those who are less fortunate, so that basically we don't have this dousing of an area that doesn't need so much rain, so we don't have the floods that eliminate people who are forgotten about to begin with, so that we don't have these tumultuous times, so that we have more balance. As we overlook these things, we start to recognize that maybe the communication needs to occur in another direction. Maybe it's not just the wiser generation. Maybe it's not, and I reached back here to grab this. I got some holy water yesterday from Holy Name Church here in town. And I got the holy water not because it has magical powers, but because someone put an intent, an energy, and a blessing into this water. And water is an interesting thing. If you don't believe me, then you don't believe yourself is interesting, because you are at least 75% water. All of the water that flows through this world, all of the things that you see around me that were made out of wood and materials from nature, all came from and were derived from water. Water, earth, air, wind, fire, we're all shaped by the natural elements that a higher power has basically given us stewardship of. And if we're not nurturing one another, well, it's very likely that we're going to be destroyed by one another. So I think you're interesting. I hope you think I'm interesting. As I tend to my yard, I hope that you believe that the plant life and animals in my yard are interesting, and that you don't wish ill upon them. That's just a thought. Time is money. Time is energy. If I'm investing energy into this channel and I have a lot of haters, but nobody who wants to channel in any positive energy by saying, hey, yeah, you're right, I needed to answer the phone when you called. Hey, yeah, you're right, I needed to talk with you when you had that point of conversation with me where you were uncomfortable in the way that I addressed you. Hey, yeah, you're right, I shouldn't have said bye, Felicia, to you, and especially since you've got situations in your family where you're already addressing situations where people are addicted to stuff like methamphetamines. There's ways that I know that I deserve to be treated. I understand that I have to pay for the things that I've done wrong, and at the same time, some of the way that these things are coming at me are irrational, unnatural. I would even call them a spiritual attack. So anyway, we've done what we could to talk about these subjects, and I wanted to end on the fact that self-care, again, looking in the mirror, self-care is of utmost importance when you are wealth building. Self-care means look at yourself. Tend to what you're tending to. I had a great friend who told me, make sure your place is in order, before you're helping other people put their place in order. He was right. He was right. You have to put your own self in order and your own place in order. And you also have to understand that you're not the judge. If you're telling someone to do something, also look at the other person from their perspective. Maybe they have put their place into order. Maybe they are trying to help out the people who are wanting to evolve spiritually. And maybe they are being met with some of the most unusual circumstances where if only we could get back to that, if two or more are gathered in the name of peace, maybe then the communication could come full circle and we could get together, have a great meal together in the spirit of celebration, talk about the discomfort that everyone's going through, and pray for better. Just to end with an example on today's episode of Weekly Strongly, I want to talk about solar energy. Solar energy is one of those things where we talked about going green, investing in the future. A lot of people voted for the third party, the Green Party alternatives. A lot of people voted when we had the last election, not the last election, but the last election, where basically we had that one leader elected who said it like it was, who made a lot of red hats, and I'm not talking about the open source software. We had a lot of people vote for the Green Party, but they never invested in the green technology. They didn't go out of their way to invest in the future, the jobs of the future. They didn't go out of their way to figure out how to get solar. Well, let me tell you what, solar has been one of the most amazing things that we acquired in this household, because this month when we got our bill, the solar bill, the energy bill, was just over $100. My neighbor's bill was over $600 because the AC units are running non-stop right now because the temperatures are so high. And even the repair technicians who were over at the place of my loved ones, the repair technician was saying these temperatures are so high that they're unprecedented, they're unheard of. This has never happened before. The Rio Grande hasn't run dry like this. We haven't gone this far with temperatures so high. Temperatures can only be lowered approximately 30 degrees by a quality AC unit. It's going to be running all day long if the sun is out all day long and there's no cloud cover. And what does that mean for someone who doesn't have solar? What that means is the system is running all day long. The system is not being offset by the credits that come from the energy that's literally coming right out of the sky. And also, the grid is being taxed in such a way that even if I went out of my way to get solar, that doesn't mean the entire grid will not be shut down due to a catastrophic failure because it's running nonstop. If you're running nonstop out of fear, out of underproduction, out of not having enough wealth to make it rain in terms of energy for everyone, you're going to collapse. That's the kind of situation that was happening with me when I was trying to help everybody that I was trying to help. So a lot of people are reaching out to me. They can't answer my questions. I'm sorry. I can't continue to make it rain for your goal and for your dream because I myself need to tend to myself at this time. So I hope you understand what I'm saying on this journey. You're open to communicate with me on this channel in public, where we're basically able to figure out, can we even communicate in private? Can we even be friends? If we can't be friends and we can't have a communication where we're gathered in favor of each other, that's fine. I'm still going to wish you positivity and greatness, whether or not you do the same for me. The thing is, though, that I also need to collect my thoughts, have my wits to myself, and save my energy to accomplish what I need to accomplish, which is basically tending to myself so that I can tend to that which is mine, that which I'm supposed to be steward of. If you're in my family and friend circle and I'm a steward of yours, just like you're a steward of me, you have to understand, I'm not trying to diminish any of the things you're doing, but if you've hidden my family members from me for over a month while you robbed them, there's a discrepancy, because I'm continuing to wish you well, continuing to wish you positivity and that you'll come around and learn to do what's right. If you've said that you were going to call my family member who was robbed and who still can't communicate with me directly, and if you said you were going to call them and try to wish them well so they can understand that I'm still wishing them well, even if they won't talk with me, and you're not talking with them, well, hey, I'm not going to go out of my way to continue to try and use my dirty sandal approach, walking in the same direction where no one's listening. I'm going to do like my other friend said, kick the dust off my shoes and go on to the next stage, which is basically, what is it? What's the next stage? Well, to me, I've got all these guitars around me. Maybe you'll see me on a different stage at some point in time soon. Maybe you won't. Maybe in this era, all I have to do is use the stage that I've got to communicate as effectively as I can, using the robust language that I have, using the beautiful smile and energy that I have to present to you, and basically using a whiteboard so that we can get back to the foundational segment of what it means to wish each other happy trails. Till next time, peace, love, and all that old school stuff. Thanks for subscribing, by the way. If you haven't subscribed, please make sure to subscribe. Click on either one of the thumbs icons, depending on which one you feel that this deserved. But don't forget, sharing is caring. And if you have not shared this on your own social media channel, and if you haven't understood why I've gone incognito and not really communicated with many people this month, then maybe you can understand this. Until I meet my goals, basically, I can't really just sit around and have playtime all day long. So if you have time to talk, that's great. I'm challenged right now with a multitude of situations, and so I'm multitasking here, trying to cover all sorts of basic topics that have to do with wealth building while we are experiencing this challenging time in the world where Mother Nature, where our higher power seems to be a little bit unsatisfied with our efforts, unsatisfied with our collective efforts. Because if our higher power, when our higher power is satisfied, we will continue to receive the blessings. If you don't feel like you're receiving blessings, I don't know what to say. I know that I'm receiving everything I need and then some, and I'm trying to share where I can, and I'm trying to share where it doesn't become a habitual thing where people continue to reach out for free things. You know, give credit where credit is due. If you're covering up my artwork, well, I'm not really going to go out of my way to help your cause. I'm not trying to slander anybody. I had a loved one tell me that I was bringing them down by telling them the truth. That's the spirit of error. That's the ego that doesn't want to hear what's going on. Those are the kind of things that, again, if I save my time, I save my money. If I save my money, I save my health. If I save my health, I save my wealth. It's that simple. So again, till next time, peace, love, and all that old school stuff.